Greetings! Welcome to the devlog for update 34 of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, we've got a slightly smaller update as I have been working away on the new targeting sequencer, which is not quite ready yet. I've had to clean up a whole bunch of things relating to simulation and events in preparation to it. But along the way, I decided to implement something that has been requested a number of times and which has taken up far too much of my time this past week just playing around with. So what am I talking about? Well, let's go ahead and pull open our options panel and take a look at our new section. We have now a simulations option section that allows us to manipulate gravity, as well as some stuff related to spent casings. So, those of you who've been playing the game for a while know that gravity in H3 is not exactly realistic. It's about half of what real-life gravity is. So if I just drop this, falls at about that rate. It's somewhere basically about halfway in between Earth gravity and Mars gravity, actually. We now have the ability, though, for those of you who prefer your realism, we can make gravity for all of our physical objects real. So that's how fast that should fall in real life. We also have a couple other fun modes for it. We can set it to be gravity on the moon. Here we go there. As well as none whatsoever, which is far too much fun. It's been one of those weird moments one oftentimes has as a game designer, where one makes something that seems like a minor change or a minor addition, and it makes one experience what one is working on in a completely different way. I've been having far too much fun playing around with this. But before I start goofing around, I'm just going to go ahead and mention that in addition to changing it for physical objects, we can change it for the player, so basically how fast you fall. This might especially be helpful for those of you who find the sort of vertical dropping motion a little too nauseating and would rather it be slower, as well as separable gravity for ballistics. Now, ballistics is the one area that gravity has always been 100% of real for. Oops, so I'm dropping things. So if I pop this scope on here, and with our sort of playful gravity, or even, let's see, oh wait, realistic gravity, there we go, and take a shot at this, I believe to hit that back gong there, we have to shoot a bit above it. Let's see if we can hit it. Oh, miss. Oh! Figures I would just miss doing this live. There we go. So we had to shoot slightly above it. Whereas if we say set gravity for ballistics to none, especially with a scope, we should basically be exactly zeroed where the round is going to strike regardless of distance. So actually let me pump that up to max. See if I can hold this steady enough. Got it. And let's shoot one of the hot dogs just to demonstrate that we are hitting exactly where we're aiming. Oh, missed him anyway. You get the point, though. So, onto the fun stuff. So let's set that back to realistic and set this to none. I've been having far too much fun with this, especially, say, spawn locking something like a pot next to my head. Seriously, those of you who like to have friends over and demo VR, especially those who've never seen through a stereo headset before, this is downright magical to experience. Let's grab ourselves some shotgun shells. Go like that. Pop those in. Goodbye! Just to shatter a few of these. And just walk through them. Seriously, it's one of those, there's something about having an object floating in front of you that really amplifies the stereo illusion. One thing you will notice is that particle effects still do fall with gravity regardless of this setting. For whatever reason, there's no easy way to automatically hook up particles to sort of the global gravity, so I haven't figured out a clever way to have that be consistent. Everything else should work, though. Far too much fun. And to pair with this, another thing that's been asked repeatedly, both for those of you who like to make cool videos and just for playing in general, is some of you have asked for the ability to have bullet despawn not function the way it does, i.e. having the cartridges auto-delete after 10 seconds. So you can now set this down to 5 seconds. If you ever have performance issues from, say, firing 2 automatics at once, you can turn it up to 30, or you can have it be infinite, which is really fun with the zero grav. P90 ejects out of here, so let's just... altogether too much fun. And if you find that you've suddenly spawned way too many rounds and they've gone off, I mean, I'm even getting just a little bit of jitter right now, you can just set that to 5 and it will despawn in 5 seconds. Come on, there we go. Everything that is currently active. Far too enjoyable. Note, I haven't actually tested this extensively in every level to get a notion of just what happens when you have no gravity everywhere, so I'd be quite curious if a whole bunch of you could actually try this and tell me if anything truly catastrophically breaks. It's probably something that I'll contextually disable in certain game modes, especially sort of competitive ones, to make sure everyone is sort of competing on an even playing field in terms of ballistics and physical object behavior. But for all the sandbox scenes, far too enjoyable. So yeah, so let's go ahead and jump out of VR now. Bye. And talk about what the sort of progress on the sequencer is like so far.
Yo! So before we start talking about the sequencer, let's quickly go over the change log with all of our bug fixes this week, as I finally managed to squash a number of really long-standing stuff that's been sort of irritating and frankly that I just didn't have the patience to fix earlier. So let's see, the scene cleanup should no longer strip firearm rounds out of the chamber of a weapon, thus completely bugging it out. I cleaned up a bunch of stuff related to the ballistics simulation, mainly because I had to change some stuff for gravity manipulation, but in the process found a bunch of other little stuff that I was able to tweak and improve. 7.62x39 soft point can now be properly loaded into mags. I tried to fix that like 3 times and there was yet another bug, just misconfigured data files. The SPOS 12 and Mac11 stocks, decorative back stocks, should now be able to fold properly. I don't know how those broke. They might have always been broken, but fixing something else fully broke them. The Minigun Box magazine now properly ejects by just grabbing it instead of having to still click the touchpad. The Minigun Box now actually has infinite ammo if you want to use it with infinite ammo in the arcade prototype. The backup iron sight rear piece can now finally be picked up thanks to whomever reported that. What else? I fixed a whole bunch of just like trigger volumes related to attachments that sort of the one on the back sight was messed up and it made me check a bunch of other ones and they weren't quite the right size or the shape for convenient usage, so that's been improved. The last 2 waves of sequence 6 in the modular range where there would just be no targets has finally been fixed. I had misdragged the prefab for the target just in those 2 waves, which gives you an idea of just how badly designed my configuration files for that first draft were. So it was basically spawning the sound effect and not the target. I fixed a bunch of errant hand filtering data related to teleportation. If you still have issues involving sort of foregrips being maintained, sort of foregrip holds when you teleport, please let me know. I should have that fixed, but if something is still going wrong, I probably am doing some computation in the wrong order. So I'd really like to know if you run into that issue. Okay, fixed a bunch of negatively scaled trigger colliders that were causing some physics crashes for folks. It's this one was actually fixed because I got some logs from you guys. So those of you who've been sort of pasting out output logs and giving them to me on the Steam forums when something's been wrong, many thanks. The wrist menu's current movement mode text now properly populates when the game loads. Yeah, and also I fixed this in a hot fix last week. But any of you who have experienced something akin to you go to run the game and it's a completely pink screen or the game just doesn't launch at all, more than likely it's because you're missing the Microsoft Visual C++ runtime, the latest update of it, or your DirectX is out of date. I have set, because I didn't even know this was an option in the sort of Steam backend, set it to sort of forcibly load those runtimes when you install the game for the first time. But a couple of people, probably because they installed H3 a while ago, and this is a somewhat new requirement, might not have those installed. So if you have one of those two issues, that is probably what's missing on your machine. Or your Windows is out of date. So yeah, so that's our changelog. So what else is going on? Well, I am still working on the sequencer. I had originally planned to sort of rush out a really rough prototype for this update, but partway through this week, I realized that was the exact thing that I did last time with the modular range that made it bad. I always have this inclination, especially because of the fact that this project started with a weekly update cadence, to get something just barely functional and then do all of the sort of visual finishing work and push it out so that people can play it immediately. And because of that, I end up designing systems in this way where I do the first, like, 1/3 of it really carefully. I do the second third of it beginning to get a little impatient and sloppy, then do the third just like completely slapdash. And so I'm trying not to do that this time. So I hope you folks don't mind that it's going to be another update until you're able to play with it. But I want to make sure that my new sort of animation framework for the targets is working well. I've already got all of the target behavior in the current modular range re-implemented far more intelligently with a whole bunch more movement modes. Targets can actually sort of rotate. I can have several sets of them spawned at once with different animation behaviors. There's already, for the disc style targets, 5 types. There's a sort of a standard one hit it anywhere, a no-shoot, an armored target that requires being struck multiple times, and that's dependent actually on which firearm you're using. So it will actually take more rounds of a handgun to shatter it than, say, a rifle. There is a sort of classic 3-ring bull, and there's what I call a red ring target, which is sort of blue in the center 50%, and then red no-shoot on the outer half, so it penalizes you if you're off center on it. And then in addition to the sort of discs, I'm working on other sorts of a sequence or a wave will be able to also spawn obstacles and obstructions in the sort of range field. So it'll be the sort of thing where I can say spawn a 4x4 grid of targets and then spawn a horizontal blocker that moves back and forth. So there'll be all of these different ways in which I can layer various sorts of aiming and timing challenges within a single wave, much less a progression of a sequence. So it has me really, really excited. It's going to be more sophisticated and better and more interesting to play in every way than the current modular range. And that's just one of the sort of target modalities that I'm working on. I'm working on what I call the sort of mental math grid still, which is almost done. I need to do some really tedious work for that. And then there's going to be a bunch of more sort of physics reactive stuff. So sort of skeet style, I would call them almost sort of like target mortars, where a target will come up in an arc in the field, and there'll be a whole bunch of different alignments that they can be with. And then what I call orbiters, which are, I'm still nailing down their exact behavior, but and this is inspired by a mode in Police Trainer, where you sort of shoot a target and then it splits into two that start bouncing horizontally in a physics active way within a field, and when you strike one, it sort of replaces it in the field. So it's something that keeps you having to make very, very complex movements with the firearm to sort of to stay on target, and that sort of like suddenly can change velocity in interesting ways. So yeah, and of course I've got a whole bunch of other stuff that is in the sketchbook and not in the game yet, but that I'm making sure that the system that I'm architecting can support. So hopefully next update I'll actually have something exciting to show you instead of just words about it. So, well, I hope you all have fun playing around with the low gravity. I certainly recommend you open up the warehouse range and set your gravity either to moon or none, as it is so much fun just to use the graviton beamer with large objects just flying around you instead of just being weighted to the ground. So, well, I hope you all have fun, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Peace.